Hello everyone, it is I, Sir Cat Spoopalot, coming to you with yet another Star Wars related video. So what I'm gonna be doing here today, I'm just gonna make a laid-back tier list ranking all the Star Wars superweapons. So I have all the Star Wars superweapons I could find, and I'm going to rank them based on their destructive power. Both known power, and also speculative power, if we have no evidence of them ever causing any destruction, but their power was theorized to some credible capacity. I will not explain most superweapons in detail. For that, you should go and check out my Star Wars Superweapon Iceberg series. I'm going to link them somewhere here on the screen now. In this video, I will just give a short summary and a reason for the chosen rank. So let me explain the rankings to you now. So in S tier, we got I Have Become Death, the Destroyer of Galaxies. These superweapons are galactic-level threats, simply put. In A tier is the end of the world as we know it. So these superweapons can easily destroy a planet or even a star system, but are incapable of destroying the galaxy. In B, we got a continent of molten glass. These superweapons can cause significant damage to a planet or can destroy moons and small planetoids. In C, we got feeling a little bit dead. So these superweapons can cause wide destruction at a massive city scale, but can't really impact the planet itself. In D, we got minor galactic annoyance. These superweapons fill a certain niche role that make them too specific to be super powerful, but they can still be quite destructive. And in F tier, we got Palpatine's toilet paper holder. So these superweapons are either useless, counterproductive to their purpose, or I don't even really consider them to be super weapons. Also, we will have a sub-ranking within each tier. So what this means is that super weapons to the left will be more powerful than super weapons to the right. Ergo, the leftmost super weapon will be the most powerful within the tier, and the rightmost super weapon will be the weakest within the tier. This video is gonna be semi-scripted, so I will be mostly talking off the top of my mind. I do have notes on my table, so I'm not just completely rambling for an hour or so. I will still probably ramble, but I will try to be as concise as I can be nonetheless. Reminder that this is just my opinion. This does not mean this is some objective fact. Any of these rankings are not objective fact. If you have a different opinion than me, that's great. As long as you are civil, feel free to leave a comment saying how you would rank these super weapons. I would really appreciate reading that. With that out of the way, let's begin. Let's start with the OG. The one that we all know and love, the first Death Star. This is an easy S tier. It's a battle station that is capable of traveling in hyperspace, and it can blow up a planet in just like a pshoo, and it's gone. Obviously S tier. Like, you can basically destroy the whole galaxy if you wanted to. Of course, it has the glaring weakness of the exhaust port, but realistically still crazy strong. The second Death Star, it is also S tier, and I would put it above the Death Star because it is basically just a better version of the Death Star. The only reason it got destroyed in the movies is because it was not finished. I am a full belief that if this thing was allowed to finish construction, it would be game over for not just the Rebel Alliance, but probably half the galaxy. So it's clearly S tier. This is Operation Cinder. I didn't talk about this one in my Star Wars Superweapon Iceberg trilogy. Probably should have, but it's a bit similar to another superweapon we'll look at a bit later. I'll explain this one. Basically, it is a set of satellites that shoot lasers that create massive storms on the planet and cause massive cataclysms on the planet. I'm thinking it could be either A or B, because this weapon appears in Star Wars Battlefront 2, the EA one, and it does do quite a bit of considerable damage. Probably you can see some footage right here on the screen at the moment, but I think I'm gonna put it in high B for now. At the end, I'm probably gonna shift some things around, but for now, I'm gonna put it in high B. It definitely can wreck a planet, there's no question about it, but I don't know if it's quite like a complete planet killer, you know. Starflash. This one's interesting. We don't know much about it. It's some mysterious super weapon used by the Chiss that would shoot some sort of energy beam at the star, and then the star would shoot back this energy beam at double the strength and wreck whatever is on the way back. I don't know if I can put it in like S tier, but I'm gonna put it in A tier. Why I'm not putting in S tier? because we don't really know that much about it. What we do know, however, is that it gets destroyed when you use it, because like the beam bounces back from the sun and comes back to the super weapon and kills both its users, and anything that is nearby. I do hope we get to see this thing in action in some sort of capacity soon, because it is a part of the Disney canon, and it is very intriguing, and I hope it comes into play. Maybe in the Ahsoka show, I don't know. We still have to yet to see. Starkiller Base, easiest S tier of my life, no question there. It is crazy freaking strong. It shoots a volley of planet-killing lasers that can wreck a whole star system. Like, what are we talking about here? It's absolutely insane, and it's obviously S tier. This one is the Deathmark laser. It's a laser with a targeting system that can precisely eliminate targets. But, and this is the big but, you need to tag a person for the satellite to target them, which makes it, I think, terrible. Because if you're going to have to come up to a person and tag them and then have a laser fucking wreck them, you might as well just poison them, you know? I mentioned this in my Iceberg video. You might as well just shoot the guy or poison him at that point, you know? So I really feel this thing is not necessary, needlessly complex, and doesn't really do that much except like kill single targets. Blackwing Virus. This one's very nice. And this one could be the first one that is very contentious. I'm gonna put it in, I'm probably gonna put it somewhere in A right here for now. Maybe later on I'll put it in low B, low A. But the problem with this one, some of you maybe be thinking, oh, this is clearly S tier. The problem is that all the times we have seen this thing in action, it has broken out by accident, obviously, and it has been contained quite effectively afterwards. So even though its release is always unintentional, it doesn't really do that much, except maybe completely wreck life on the planet. And even then, if we look, for example, at Dathomir in Star Wars Galaxies, it doesn't even take over the whole planet, it just takes over the area around the research base. So you know, frick it, I'm putting it in B. For now, I'm gonna put it in B, lower B. Maybe I'll change my mind. Next we have Malachor Superweapon. Another interesting one, because we don't know too much about it. I'm gonna put it in C, because all we know that it can do is just kill and freeze people around it. Maybe it has something more to it, but it doesn't seem to, and probably we'll never know because it got blown up. So it's for now it's C. It's quite dangerous, but nothing too crazy. Next one. Oh lord, I know I'm gonna get a lot of flack for this one. It's the Zeiston class from Star Wars Episode 9. I hate it, but this goes in S tier, and I'm gonna put it above Starkiller Base. You're gonna ask me, why? Why? Because it's a Star Destroyer-sized superweapon that can hyperspace travel, and it can blow up a planet very effectively. So it's basically like the Death Star, but there's like 5,000 of them, if I remember correctly. I don't remember the exact numbers the Zeiston classes the Emperor had, but he had a lot of them. They can hit several planets, several thousands of planets in very quick succession, which is not good. It is S tier, which is something bad, I will admit. Something I want to note is that just because a super weapon is S tier doesn't mean it is something good. Like, okay, maybe Death Stars are an exception, but generally, if you are an S tier, it means you are like a MacGuffin that was created to create like crazy stakes instead of anything like really practical or cool. Of course, it can still be cool. Like, for example, I do think obviously the Death Stars are cool. Starkiller Base is a pretty cool idea. Zeiston class is a terrible idea. But nonetheless, I'm trying to be very objective here and pragmatic, so I have to put it in high S tier. Next up, we have, this is the Eclipse class. So I'm gonna say this is a better version of the Zeiston class, and because of that, it will be in high B tier. So, high B tier. Excuse me, hello, here we go. High B tier. It's, we know it can destroy capital ships, but we can also assume it can wreck continents on planets and large chunks of the planet, because it does use basically the same reactor as a Death Star. Death Star has multiple reactors, that's why it can blow up a planet. this only uses one reactor, but from what we saw in Rogue One, Death Star laser at one reactor power is still enough to fuck up a planet beyond recognition. So I'm confident in putting this in B. Next is Planet Prison. You know what? I'm putting in the D tier. Planet Prison creates this clouded ion gas around the planet, making any ships traveling to and from the planet fall onto the planet and crash and die. On one hand, you could say this is like at least a B, but hear me out. Unless the planet is heavily dependent on interstellar trade, like, does it really matter that your ships can't leave the planet? I mean, look at us. We're chilling here for like 2,000 plus years without really leaving the planet that much. And we're fine, more or less. So I feel like, you know, in the grand scheme of things, having this thing on isn't that big of a deal. Yeah, it's a problem, but it's not like, oh my god, we're gonna die. Plus, you need this thing on the planet for it to work. Eventually, if someone really wants to turn this thing off, they can find it and turn it off. So there's that too. Next is Hyperspace Nullifier. So I am kind of like in semi-rant mode. Like this is not fully scripted, but I do have like a little script here on my table right here. When I initially was scripting this, I thought, oh, this is just like C tier. But then I thought for a moment and I realized this shit is S tier, like easily. Because somebody who can control hyperspace travel is basically the king of the galaxy. This thing is very dangerous. You can basically cut off entire star systems from the rest of the galaxy. It's very problematic. Oh, I forgot to tell what this thing does. You need to watch the Iceberg video for details, but basically it can manipulate hyperspace lanes, and that's why it's S tier. The MCPS, or the, oh, what was it called? Something phase shifter. Yes. This is how how prepared I am for this. The MCPS, I do remember the acronym. It basically turns whatever material it hits into some brittle, porous material. You can almost think of it like slag weapons from Borderlands 2, if anyone has played that game. You know, you hit something with a slag weapon and then you switch to another type of weapon, and then that weapon deals increased damage to the target. This is basically the same idea. However, this is not an RPG. This is Star Wars, so this goes in F tier. Simply put, if you're gonna blast something apart, just use turbo lasers. Or if you really want to be flashy, use mass driver cannons. Does the same thing without as much upkeep. Orbital Night Cloak, bunch of satellites that cover the whole planet and make it so the sun rays can't get through it, and thus turning the planet into a ball of ice. I'm gonna put it in high C tier. So this is what I was talking about when I was talking about Operation Cinder, and then there's a similar weapon to it. Operation Cinder wrecks the planet quite a lot, but what Orbital Nightcloak does, it basically just freezes the planet. That's a big problem, don't get me wrong. The problem with these satellites, which is also the same with Operation Cinder satellites, is that if you destroy one, the rest of them also basically go down. They're very vulnerable to sabotage. Once these satellites go down, the ice will probably melt, and that's about it. Like, of course it's gonna be a problem long term, but it's not enough to really be B-worthy. Eye of Palpatine. What an amazing name. I still think it's great. I'm gonna put it also in high C tier. It has a powerful super laser, but it's not quite a super laser like the Death Star. It's more of a laser beam, you know, like type of laser beam, not like pew pew pew. It was built specifically to go to a planet that is covered in ice, burn through the ice, and destroy the Jedi Academy that's hidden deep under the ice shelves. It has its purpose. It is powerful, and it is a very strong capital ship, but that's about it. That's about it. It's just good enough. This is the Scaranal mech. So the Scaranal mech, it appears in the Bad Batch TV show, and it is this giant giraffe-looking mech that shoots a powerful laser beam, and that's about it. It's cool, but nothing makes it stand out as truly dangerous. You know, I would barely even call it a super weapon. It's like a giraffe 8080 with a powerful laser beam. Part of me kind of wants to put it in D, but honestly, I'm just gonna put it in high F. Like, okay, it's powerful, but it's nothing special. Next, we got the Shock Drum. I'm gonna put it in lower A. It's a super weapon that when turned on, starts to vibrate everything around it, and this vibration field grows more powerful and increases in range the longer the super weapon is active, which is pretty powerful. at its theoretical late stage, it can basically vibrate the planet apart. Clearly, it's A tier. But first off, it takes some time to charge up, and second off, it has to be on the planet to work, so you basically lose it after single time use. So max it can do is just destroy a planet, and that's it. Next, we got the Ionic Ring Ship. I would say it's like a literally straight upgrade to Operation Cinder satellites, because it does the same of terraforming a planet, but it has a hyperdrive. So it is infinitely more powerful than the Operation Cinder satellites, but also it doesn't have any defense systems. It's pretty vulnerable. It should just go A. You know, it can destroy a planet easily, but that's about it. And now we have the Malevolence. So Malevolence, I'm gonna put it in low C. Now some of you be like, oh, don't shit talk the Malevolence. Malevolence is cool. I hear you, and you're right. I do like the Malevolence. It's a very cool ship design. However, okay, the ion cannons are cool, but if those are disabled, this is just a big ship. And this ion cannon doesn't have an IFF system, so, you know, it could backfire by disabling your own forces. And we actually see that happen in the Clone Wars TV show, so we know that it has some major flaws to its use. However, it is still a very powerful fleet killer, so I'm gonna put it in C. So, next up, we got the Silencer. So, I didn't talk about this in my Iceberg video series, mostly because it's very similar to another super weapon we'll look at a bit later. But it's basically this mega laser cannon mounted on a capital ship, and it was capable of firing giant lasers very, very quickly. Which is pretty flashy and quite powerful, but let's be fair here, it's nothing too crazy. And in lore, this was made by the Sith Empire, and the Galactic Empire quickly adapted to this sort of super weapon. So later down the line, it just became a beefy turbo laser. It has its purpose, but it's nothing too crazy, so it goes in D tier. We got the Arc Pulse Generator. I'm gonna put it in D tier. Why? This might be very, very terrible, but it's just a genocide weapon. That's horrible. Maybe I shouldn't say that, but it's true, because it's a very, very specific and niche super weapon, because it super cooks people who are wearing Beskar. And as we know, there's only really one culture in Star Wars that wears Beskar, and it's the Mandalorians. It does its job very good, but its target number is very limited, so I can only put it really in D tier, which is terrible. It's terrible, but it's just how it is. It just goes to show how horrifying all of these super weapons are when you think about it. Next up, we got the Thought Bomb. The Thought Bomb, I think it's a very strong A. You know what, I'm gonna put it right here for now. The main reason why it's an A tier is because it creates such a strong disturbance in the Force that it basically turned the planet it was used on from a Earth-like planet to a complete wasteland. So because of that, I think it should be A tier. Also, of course, it creates a terrifying explosion that sucks up people's souls and tortures them for all eternity. But that is more of like a psychological terror factor than like, you know, like a destructive terror. But it's still very powerful. A tier. Yeah, but the only real drawback with it is that it can't be really used much, because you need a lot of psycho Sith who are willing to die to use it, which I think is a very good assumption to make, but it's very unlikely you'll find many Sith who are willing to do that. Next, we got the Planechangas. The Planechangas, I think I'm gonna put them in high B tier, maybe even low A tier if I change my mind. Because what they basically do is they use some sort of, I believe, rail cannon technology to launch asteroids at planets, which is very strong. If you look at the planets that the Hutts control, they're all completely demolished and nasty looking, mostly because there has so many civil wars amidst each other. They've completely destroyed the planets, and I'm sure Planechangas had some role in that annihilation. But those planets are still standing around, so I can only really put it in high B tier. Next up is the Dark Staff. I'm gonna say it's solid A tier. because it can blow up planets, but it needs a lot of setup to do so. The only reason it could blow up a planet, I forgot the planet's name, is because its natives were manipulated by the Dark Staff. They built this massive device, put the Dark Staff inside the device, and it blew up the planet. Yeah, it needs a lot of setup and manipulation to do its job, but when it does a job, it does it well. Also can create powerful force storms on its own, which is also very noteworthy, but that's about it. Next up, the Tarkin. Now I'm gonna put the Tarkin between Death Star 1 and Death Star 2. Mostly because it was supposed to be like the Death Star 1.5, where it had all of the things that made the original Death Star terrifying and powerful, but without any of the original's flaws. So it's essentially just a better version of the Death Star, but I don't think it's quite as good as the second Death Star. The second Death Star is miles better than the Tarkin from the looks of it. We got Center Point Station. Easiest S tier of my life. I'm going to put it here. Probably some people are going to kill me for putting it below the Zeiston class, but I'm trying to be very pragmatic and objective here. It's this space station that can use hyperspace tractor beams to move planets and stars and even black holes around the galaxy. And let's be fair here. How the Star Wars galaxy looks, in some part, was shaped by this center point station. If this thing can shape the galaxy, it can definitely also destroy it if the user intended to. Solid S tier. Solid S tier of complete terror. Next up, we got the Trigon 1. Oh god, it's this thing. So this is from this C-3PO and R2-D2 cartoon from the 80s. I never watched this thing. I tried to watch it. It looks like it's made for babies and it's kind of meh, so I didn't really want to continue watching it. So I'm just basing it off like information I could find online. But this thing was supposed to be able to blow up planets at full power. It's like a space satellite that's capable of firing a laser that blows up a planet. Wow, crazy. At minimum power, I believe it could kill ships. At maximum power, it could destroy planets. Never was used. Obviously, you wouldn't really want to blow up planets on a kids show apparently, but I'm gonna say that I'm gonna go based off of its assumed power and say it is A tier. Not S tier because it's a satellite, and let's be fair here, you put a satellite on a planet you're blowing up, you're probably not getting that satellite back. So, A tier. Okay, next up, we got the Desolator. So this thing is a nightmare weapon. It combines the technologies of the shock drum, the planet prison, and the Deathmark laser to create this weapon that turns a planet into a hellball. I'm going to put it in low-end S tier because this super weapon can be mounted on a hyperspace-capable spaceship, and thus it basically has the whole galaxy as its oyster. However, it does require a lot of energy to function, and also it needs a long time to charge up. So there is plenty of opportunity to sabotage it, and this sabotage is much easier than with the rest of these things. Solid S tier. Very powerful, but it has quite a lot of flaws, so it can't go any higher. Next up, we got the Null Cannon, or I guess plural, Null Cannons, because there were many of them. Didn't talk about these in the Star Wars Superweapon Iceberg, mostly because I don't really consider this to be a super weapon. In the Star Wars The Old Republic, it's basically this giant cannon that you can mount on a spaceship and can disable other spaceships. Now, you might see where the problem is that maybe back 1,000 years ago, this was kind of a problem, but nowadays, even starfighters are capable of doing this. So I think I am pretty safe in saying that this thing is F tier. Next up, we got the Mass Shadow Generator. The Mass Shadow Generator, I'm gonna put it in A tier right here. It just destroys the planet and anything that is in orbit around the planet. But the problem is it can really be only used once or twice. We saw it used twice in the Knights of the Old Republic 2 game. So it can't really destroy the whole galaxy unless you can somehow mass produce it, which is unlikely. I'm gonna put it in A tier. You know, very strong, but that's about it. Next, we got the Dark Reaper. I'm gonna put it in high C tier, right here in the middle actually, because we see it be able to completely wipe out all life around it, and its range is pretty big, but not really big enough to like cover an entire continent or even a whole moon. We did see it get used on the moon of Kashyyyk, and it only really blew up part of a forest on the planet, which is considerable damage, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite powerful enough to be in B, so I'm gonna put it in C. The Kumaru Battleship. Well, I'm reading my notes and I'm surprised I got it first try. What it was, essentially, it was a special type of ship used in the ancient past that would use mass driver cannons to launch asteroid at planets to bombard them. It basically was like a space-capable catapult, if that makes sense, or trebuchet, which is pretty powerful, at least in the ancient times, and it's apparently also one of the reasons why planetary shields were developed in the Star Wars galaxy, which is pretty impressive. So once these planetary shields were developed, it became completely obsolete. And because of that, I'm gonna put it in F tier. I'm thinking I'm gonna put it here because at least it has, like, you know, it has its place in history. This thing is just like, I don't know why it exists. However many years ago, I'm probably going to show you on the screen, how many years ago before the Battle of Yavin, yeah, this thing had its place, and it was very scary. Nowadays, it's nothing. Speaking of something scary, next up we got Darth Nihilus. He's an easy S tier. And you know what? I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to crack and put him above the Zeiston class. There you go. This is my tier list and my choices. Like Kreia said in Knights of the Old Republic 2, if he was never stopped, he could potentially eat the whole galaxy and everything in it. Well, which is, you know, pretty S-tier worthy in my opinion. Some would argue, if you're gonna be so pedantic, why are you putting him above the Zeiston class? First off, chill. Second off, yeah, okay, the Zeiston class could probably do it much faster, but I think the freaking fact that this is a living being that is capable of destroying the galaxy just by existing, I think is warranted enough to put him in at the very top of S tier. Fight me on that if you want, but I think no one really is gonna fight me because everyone loves Darth Nihilus. Next up, we got the two-wave Grav Shock. I didn't talk about this one in my Star Wars Superweapon Iceberg, but it's essentially type of super weapon that could be mounted on a torpedo sphere, which is a type of ship. There's probably an image on the screen right now showing how it looks like, but it's a type of ship, and this two-wave Grav Shock would fire this projectile at a planet, which would affect the local gravity of the impact point, which would result in massive ground quakes and other catastrophes in that area that is affected. However, the power of this projectile directly correlated with how much power was used to fire it, I believe. So, because it was only mounted on a torpedo sphere, which is not a big ship, it could only destroy city-sized targets. Theoretically, it could be mounted on a superstar destroyer, which would cause it to proportionally cause more destruction, maybe even planet-wide. But apparently, from what I read, it was not logistically wise to attach this thing to a superstar destroyer, considering how much power it would actually drain from the ship. So this one is a pretty safe C tier right here. Next up is the Corsair. The Corsair, I would say it's somewhere here, lower S tier. Some would argue you should put it at higher S tier, considering it literally blows up stars by ripping out their cores. I hear you. However, here's my main argument why it's a bit lower down here. Because you need to have a lot of force energy and also a very powerful force user to control the super weapon. We only really know one person that was capable of doing so, and it was Naga Sadao. Maybe there are other people in the Star Wars galaxy that were capable of wielding this super weapon, but we really only know one, so I cannot in good faith put it in higher S tier. So it's gonna go in lower S tier. It's powerful, but its potential is very limited by how powerful its user is. Next up is the Planet Killer, this stupid thing. It's just a giant bomb that was apparently able to blow up a planet. We don't know if it could blow up a planet definitively because it got disabled before it blew up, but I'm just gonna go off what the goofy scientist said and put it in. I'm just gonna put it in A tier right here in the middle. Next, Onager class. So Onager class was a siege weapon, very powerful. It could break through planetary shields, and it could destroy entire bases very easily. But that's about it. I'm not really that confident that I would put it anywhere higher than B. And I'm even considering, should I put it high C or low B? And I'm thinking for now I'm going to put it in low B. Maybe I'll change it to high C later down the line, but for now I'm pretty confident in B tier. Next up, we got the Sunraiser. Now this one is one of my favorites because it is essentially an evil Dyson sphere, and I do wish we saw more of it. I am going to put it somewhere in the middle of S tier because although it's not capable of destroying planets on its own, or, you know, cause any sort of destruction on its own, to be, as a matter of fact. It can, however, build several super weapons that can destroy planets and worse. So I'm pretty confident in putting it in S tier. Yeah, because a lot of the super weapons we see on this list were built using the Sunraiser. Next up, we got the Blue Shadow Virus. The Blue Shadow Virus has a lot of the same problems that the Blackwing Virus has, in that its power is very dependent on how many people it can infect. But I'm going to put it in lower end A tier, I would say, maybe even like a bit higher than low, like somewhere here, because unlike the Blackwing Virus, this thing is much more potent. Yeah, okay, of course, the zombie outbreak is a pretty big deal, but this thing is really, really deadly. So I would say it's much more powerful and much more contagious than the Blackwing Virus. So I'm going to put it in A tier. Yogan's Core, I'm going to put it in S tier. I don't even know where I should put it. I'll put it right here. It is the only one in the S tier that we know deserves this spot, because the Yuzhang Wong, these evil aliens that came from another galaxy to attack the Star Wars galaxy, they used this tactic a lot in their own galaxy, which caused most of the planets there to be fucking blown up, so they needed a new home, thus they invaded the galaxy. So we know this thing can destroy a galaxy, so this is the most deserving S tier of all. Drill ship. I would say this is pretty clear. A. We do, unlike a lot of these A tiers, we do know it did actually blow up a planet, and it was actually capable of going further and blowing up more planets. However, it was stopped before it could blow up, I believe it was Botaui. And you know what? Because it is hyperspace capable, I'm going to put it a bit higher. I'm going to put it actually at the top of A tier, because unlike most of all the others super weapons in A tier, it can actually travel between worlds and blow them up. But the problem with this weapon is that the way it operates is quite strange. And additionally, it doesn't really have any defense systems to speak of, so a sizable enough fleet could just delete this thing without any issues, and that's the end of the story. So I can't really put it in S tier, but it is definitely top of A tier for now. Next, we got the Death Star prototype. I'm gonna put it at the top of A tier, sorry, not A tier, B tier. Because this thing, we know it can blow up moons without any issues. It blew up moons, I believe it also blew up some planetoids in testing, but this is the core. This is like the pinpoint definition of a B rank. It can't blow up planets. Its reactor is not powerful enough for that. Also, it has no defense systems to speak of, unlike the Death Stars. So it definitely can go in A, but it is a very nice B tier. Hammer Station. Hammer Station is another one that I didn't talk about in my Iceberg video, so I'm going to quickly talk about it. It is a mobile platform capable of capturing asteroids with a tractor beam and launching them at a fraction of the speed of light. That's pretty freaking gnarly, if you ask me. If you know your physics, you know how crazy that sounds, and I agree with you, but we don't really see it used that much, if at all. We've only like read, there's like a couple data entries about it in the the Old Republic MMO. I can really only put it in like somewhere here. I'm gonna put it here. It seems very powerful, and apparently it was, because this was actually built by the Republic, oddly enough. But they realized what a big problem they built, so they decided, you know what? Forget we ever did this. And they hid it away somewhere deep on like one planet, I forgot which one it was, and kind of tried to like forget that it exists, and instead focused on building something that is less destructive, like the shock drum, like the planet prison, etc. So this thing has a place. Actually, what am I doing? I should put it higher than the shock drum, because they saw that this thing was too OP, and they built some downscaled stuff. Like just to not seem like genocidal maniacs. All right, we got the Conqueror here. So the Conqueror is another one of my favorites. It's basically a kid's meal version of the Eclipse class. It's nice. It's just a Star Destroyer with a little laser attached to it that can blow up small moons, I believe, and planetoids. At least I remember in like the supplementary material it appears in. It could, I believe it blew up a planetoid during testing. So it deserves a B rank. But in good faith, I cannot put it above Eclipse class, because Eclipse class is literally just like a super version of that. So I'm gonna put it right here in the middle of B. Okay, Gravity Gun. Okay, Half-Life fans, chill out. This is not what we're talking about here. We're not talking about the weapon that can pull poop out of the butt.
My God, what are you doing?
This is a weapon that launched powerful gravity mines, which created strong gravitational waves that would break ships apart. Sounds pretty powerful, but apparently it was only really usable in very specific conditions, and these mines were mostly used as like a deterrent against invading enemy fleets. So I would put it in very high D tier. Like, not... I'm kind of tempted in putting in the C tier, but we really only saw it used against ships and fleets of ships. So I'm going to put it in D tier, like a very powerful invasion deterrent, you could say. Next up, we got the Shocking Device. Oh boy. So, the Shocking Device would blow up the planet Shocking, which would fling its pieces into hyperspace. These pieces would crash into other planets, which would cause them to shatter, and these pieces would break apart, and just like it would be like a domino effect that would eventually result in the second Big Bang happening. It was never tested for fucking obvious reasons, so we don't know its true power and if it would even work. But if we're going based off of theory, which is like half of these entries to be honest, I'm gonna have to actually put it not just in S tier, at the very top of S tier. And if I was ballsy enough, I would put it in like triple S tier, because not only can this thing destroy galaxies, it could theoretically destroy the entire universe. And nothing can really top that, let's be honest here. Alrighty, so we went from nuclear bomb to a coughing baby, which is still crazy. We got Galaxy Gun. The Galaxy Gun is an easy S tier. I'm gonna put it below the Starkiller base. So it launches these rockets that delete planets. It can fire from across the galaxy, so nothing is safe from it. Why it's a bit below the Starkiller base is because Starkiller base can basically do the same, but can destroy a whole star system in one go, while the Galaxy Gun can only do it one planet at a time. Which is still fucking terrifying, but it does make it a bit less powerful than Starkiller base. Next up, we got this was the Antimatter Bomb. I'm gonna put it in C tier. Let's put it right here. It's essentially just a super nuke. It blows up a city and turns the city's remains into a wasteland that has blue flame coming out of it. Yeah, it's just C tier. And when you think about it, it's pretty crazy how what is essentially a super nuke is only C tier in this tier list. You know, it's like kind of wild to consider, but that just goes to show how crazy the Star Wars galaxy is, that a nuke is only C tier. Now we got the Barrager. So again, another super weapon that I didn't really mention in my Iceberg video, because as you can probably tell by the pattern here, it's fucking useless. What it does essentially, it is like this very sophisticated turbo laser defense system that can destroy any invading fleet in orbit. But the problem is that the planet that is used to defend it gets drained of energy so fast, it would become like an energyless, lifeless husk. So it is essentially useless for its purpose, but I am kind of curious if I should like put it in at least high B tier just for the fact that it kills the planet it's on. That would be pretty fucking funny, but I'm gonna go based off of its intended purpose of defending the planet against invading fleets and put it in F tier. That it does a terrible fucking job. Okay, it can defend the planet, but then the planet is just a pointless husk at that point. So what the fuck is the point of using this weapon? I'm kind of even tempted in putting it at the very bottom. Next up, we got Dart Moments Superweapon. So this thing, I'm gonna put it in C tier. Why? Because it basically just destroys a city. That sounds insane. You know, out of context, that sounds insane. Oh, it just blows up a city. But it's true. It just blows up a city. But what makes it extra terrifying, which is the reason why I'm putting it in a higher C tier, is because it also freezes the victims in state of constant fear and agony for all time. So it's like this extra factor of terror. But from just a purely destructive point of view, it is just C tier, but high C tier, undoubtedly. Next up, we got the Shadow Blade. Now this one, I was actually thinking, should I put it on this tier list or not? Because it appears in like one supplementary material in like a Star Wars RPG book, and we barely know anything about it from that. But I thought, you know, screw it, I'm gonna put it for fun. It was essentially, from what we know, it was essentially a big CIS warship that used something called a hyperpoint destabilizer. There's no real information what this thing is, what this hyperpoint stabilizer can do, but allegedly it could kill quote-unquote billions of people. Again, this is not confirmed because this thing was never used, and we don't know how it kills these billions of people. But I'm going to go off of what information we have, and I'm gonna assume like by billions of people, it means it just kills the people but doesn't blow up the planet. So I'm gonna put it somewhere in here, in like strong B tier. Like, so yeah, like, let's put it above the planet Changa. Cosmic Turbine. We don't know too much about this one either. It is apparently similar to the center point station. But again, we don't know that much about how it functions. We just know when it was used, it blew up an entire star system. Along with itself, of course, and its users. So I'm going to think I'm going to put it in high A. Not really feeling comfortable putting it anywhere higher. Because, yeah, maybe it can blow up multiple star systems, but we don't know that because it got blown up and we don't know if that was its true function or not. So we're just going to go based on what we know, and we'll say that it's very strong in destroying several planets, but that's about it. Next up, Defoliator. Fires a projectile that creates this massive fireball around the impact area, burns everything away. Very powerful, but also very niche. You can really only use it for like terror ops or create havoc in like a very densely populated or a very lush jungle area. I'm kind of split between putting it in C tier and D tier. You know, I'm gonna put it at the top of D tier because it does have a strong purpose, and it is very, very powerful, and potentially could be mass produced from what we've seen, but I'm not 100% sure. So I'm gonna put it in top of D. This is the Mur's Talisman, which is also the Ragul Plague. This could be a controversial one, but I'm gonna put it above the Blackwing Virus. For me, it feels like all these biological super weapons are not that powerful in Star Wars because it seems like I like real life. Star Wars Galaxy has its shit together with quarantine. Even though, okay, it breaks out on the planet, it usually all these biological super weapons, they don't leave the planet's surface that they break out on. And the Ragul Plague, every time you've seen it, yeah, okay, it creates like an outbreak, but doesn't really do much. Good example is Terrace. There were a ton of Raguls in the undercity of Terrace, but everyone that lived above didn't give a shit. They just knew they existed, and that's about it. No one cares. They just exist there, and because of that, I really don't think they're that big of a deal. And even then, when there was like a Ragul Plague outbreak across several star systems, it was contained pretty well. There's periodically an event in Star Wars The Old Republic where the Ragul Plague breaks out. It's always like a timed event, so obviously gets contained. Based on just all of this evidence we have, I really can't put it anywhere but like low B tier. Okay, next we got the Star Forge. So I'm gonna put it in S tier, but in lower S tier, right behind the Sunraiser, because what it essentially is just like a downscaled Sunraiser. So Sunraiser is like a massive Dyson sphere that can build super weapons, while the Star Forge is a massive battle station that can use the star to build a essentially infinite fleet of ships. Yeah, that is powerful, but if you have to ask me personally, what is more dangerous, an infinite fleet of ships or an infinite fleet of super weapons? I think I would go for infinite fleet of super weapons any time of the day. This is the Infant of Shah. The Infant of Shah. Apparently, it could rip a world apart using a great amount of force energy. Once again, we didn't see that in practice. We only heard rumors of it being capable of doing that, so I can only go off of that. You seem to need to have this thing on the planet for it to destroy the planet, so I'm gonna put it before the planet killer. You know, I'm gonna put it above the planet killer simply because I don't like the planet killer. All right, here we go. Brace for impact. We got Sun Crusher. Sun Crusher, it's okay, so maybe some people will disagree with me. I think the Sun Crusher is as, if not more stupid than the Zeiston class. Because it is insanely OP. It is a small fighter that can shoot these special types of bombs that blow up entire star system. Not fucking planets, star systems. It can hyperspace, it can survive direct hits from like Death Star prototype laser beams and God knows what else. I have no idea what the hell the writers of that story were smoking, but clearly it was very good because Jesus Christ. But again, we need to be objective. So I'm gonna put it right here. Right above the Starkiller base. Because I think Centerpoint Station can still put up much bigger threat because it can move around fucking black holes around the galaxy. We only know that there was ever only one Sun Crusher. We don't know if it could be mass-produced, but we know for sure that there are like a mass-produced amount of Zeiston classes. Just based on that, Zeiston classes are more powerful just by sheer numbers. Alright, next up, we got the Sovereign class Super Star Destroyer. This one's very simple. I'm gonna put it in B tier right after the Eclipse class, because realistically speaking, that's what it was. It was just a lower power version of the Eclipse class. The Darksaber. Oh, this thing. The Darksaber. It's a very shitty weapon. It basically is just supposed to be the base super laser of the Death Star rolled up in a joint. It was made using very shitty materials and very sloppy labor. And the one time it was supposed to fire the super laser didn't work. And as a result, the weapon blew up. Just for that, I'm putting it in F tier. I'm gonna put it here. Yeah. So it was supposed to work, but because it was made very shittily, it didn't work. But it still existed with a purpose. Alright, next up we got the Sky Cannon. The Sky Cannon was a powerful ancient super weapon that uses what seems to be a tractor beam to move moons. So it was built originally by this ancient race of aliens to change the tides of the planet it was on, but they fucked something up and destroyed one of the moons orbiting the planet, and thus caused like some great cataclysms on the planet and wrecked their civilization. It's B tier. I'm gonna put it in B tier. Like, it didn't destroy the planet it's on, but it did fuck up the civilization that was on it. I'm gonna put it here in B tier. EMP. Oh, what was it called? The Electro Pulse Bomb. Literally just EMP. It's a shittier version, in my opinion. It's a shittier version of the Defoliator, because Defoliator, I believe it has a much wider range of purpose, because it can be used against organics. And this is the inverse of that. It can only be really used against electronics. So I'm gonna put it right here, because it is still very powerful. It is an EMP, essentially. Using that in any combat environment is very dangerous. So I'm going to put it in D, but a bit below the Defoliator. Next is Ascendant Spear. This one is a peculiar one. I'm going to put it in D tier also. Maybe up here. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna put it right here. Upper D tier, just shy of C tier. Because what it basically does, it's a very beefy ship, but what makes it especially powerful is that it's supposed to have a symbiotic relationship with a Sith Lord that has special cybernetic implants. I hope I'm making sense. But essentially, if something happens to that Sith Lord that it cannot operate the ship anymore, it's just big ship, nothing too crazy. So if it has its user on board and focused, this thing is fucking crazy. Other than that, it's just a very big ship in its class, and that's it. The Omega Frost. I think I'm gonna put this thing in middle of D tier. Because basically what the super weapon is, it is 2 or multiple pylons that flash freeze anything that goes between them. Sounds pretty powerful in a sense, but the problem is you need to set up those pylons prior. So realistically, this thing can only be really used as a defensive tool or as a trap, which is what it was used as in the comic it appears in. So it's very niche, also kind of avoidable if you think about it, but it has its place. It's not completely useless, so I'm going to put it in middle of D tier. You're the Shadow Arsenal, yes. Another one I didn't talk about in my Iceberg series. It's essentially hyperspace-capable nukes. Another super weapon made by the Galactic Republic, by the way. What the fuck are these guys doing? This was made by the Republic as a deterrent, apparently. But they were kind of afraid of using them too much, so they stopped using them until the Empire got it or something like that, and then it became a problem once again. It's just super nukes that can travel in hyperspace, so I'm gonna put them in B tier, because that is pretty crazy. Oh, and also they have cloaking tech, so that makes it worse. I'm gonna put it right here, I think. Because super nukes that can travel in hyperspace and you can't see them, that's pretty terrifying and pretty destructive. The Gauntlet. I'm kind of unsure where to put this one, but I think I'll put it in the middle of A. Now, you may be asking, why? It can shoot anything that is traveling in hyperspace within its operational range. On one hand, that is powerful, but on the other hand, it has its own problems. First off, there's only one known super weapon like this, even though it theoretically could be mass-produced. Second of all, it's apparently got a very long charge-up time, so that makes it a bit worse. So actually, I'm gonna put it right here, I think. So it is very powerful, because if you deploy enough of them, you basically prevent half the galaxy from being able to hyperspace travel, which is very powerful. But it's got its flaws, so I think this spot in A tier is good enough. Alright, next up is the World Devastator. Oh, my sweet, sweet child. I'm like really thinking. This is obviously S tier. I'm just thinking, where in S tier would I put this thing? I think I'm gonna put this thing in the middle of S tier. So what makes this one quite terrifying is not only the fact it can self-upgrade, but it can make multiple copies of itself using resources that it can literally just rip from the ground. Like, this is like one of those Minecraft mods where you just basically hollow out the whole planet just to get some resources so you can build like a mega build. It also has an AI. It's controlled by an AI, so it doesn't even need people to function. This thing is just like a recipe for disaster. Next up is the Devastation. Okay, this thing is just a straight upgrade to the Malevolence. It's got all the same features as the Malevolence, but it's got also a giant super laser that can blow up planets. Like, and you know what? I'm putting it in low S tier. Fuck you. I don't care. I just go there. Whatever. Alright, now we got the Infinity Gate. I think this is a strong A tier, because this one is one of the super weapons we know can blow up a planet. Okay, let me correct myself. It doesn't just blow up a planet. It turns into some sort of nightmare wormhole that sucks in anything that is nearby. So it actually does more than just blow up. So I'm gonna actually put it in really high A tier. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna put it here for now. It's very strong. We don't know how far it can shoot. We know that it could shoot from... It was Dathomir, I believe. There was one found on Dathomir. So it could go from Dathomir to Coruscant. Dathomir is, I believe, in the Outer Rim, and Coruscant is in the center of the galaxy. So essentially, this has crazy range. So I would say these things are powerful. Actually, you know what? Already making changes. I'm putting this thing in here. S tier. This thing is S tier worthy, now that I think about it. Leviathans, another personal favorite of mine. I think I'm gonna put them somewhere high C tier, right here. Very powerful, very scary. It's just a bunch of wingless dragons that can kill and absorb souls of people they kill. Very terrifying. We've seen them destroy entire cities, and even one was capable of destroying a small colony, so we know these things can deal some damage. They have some vulnerabilities, namely lightning, so maybe it's not usable in every situation, but they're very powerful anyway. And last but not least is the Gravitic Polarization Beam. What a nightmare this thing was to research, because it's got two separate cases where it appears and both are very different. But regardless, I think I'm gonna put it in very strong A, like maybe top of A. So what it does, it basically launches this powerful gravitic polarization beam that at the lowest power seems to be able to create a small black hole that sucks up everything around it, and at the max power it blows up the star that is nearby. The problem is that it seems to be only capable of doing that from relatively close range. You're only using this to blow up one star system and then that's over. It's very powerful, but it's really finicky to use and it seems to self-delete after each use. Alright, so we've sorted out all of these super weapons. Now let's see if I can shift them around a little bit. I'm gonna start from the bottom. Malevolence and C tier, the bottom of C tier. Actually, I'm going to put it a bit higher than the Malachor Superweapon, because the Malachor Superweapon is really, like, barely anything, to be honest. I'm even kind of tempted to put it in D tier. Yeah, I'm going to put it in D tier. Actually, I'm going to put it here. Now that I think about it, it's kind of shit. Okay. Gonna put you actually at the top of C. Yeah, it feels more appropriate. Now, can't really quite blow up a continent, but can definitely blow up a city if really wanted to. I'm thinking, is this thing powerful? No, actually it's not. I'm gonna put it here. Yeah, because it's not. It's more powerful than Operation Cinder because it can crush a moon, but that's about it. You know, so it can't really do much else. You know what? You're a fucking asshole. I don't like you. You can go here. I can't put it any lower. Can't put it any lower. I could fucking, like, throw it out the window, but nah. You can stay here. You can stay here. I'm satisfied with this. And here we have the final tier list of every Star Wars superweapon that we know of. It looks pretty scary when you think about it, how top-heavy everything is. It just goes to show that a lot of these superweapons are very powerful, which once again is not always a good thing. The more powerful your super weapon is, the more it just becomes like a MacGuffin. But it's still very nice to see that, you know, a lot of these super weapons are very, very, very powerful and they warrant their own stories and their own inclusions in the Star Wars galaxy. And that's all she wrote. Thank you all for watching all the way through. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry for all the rambling and all the stuttering. It's just how I am. If you want to do this tier list in your own style, if you want to, for example, put the Zeiston class in double F tier for whatever reason, or you want to put, for example, I don't know, the Death Star in quadruple S, you're more than welcome. I'm going to leave this tier list in the description. You can play around with it all you want. But this is my tier list, so let me know in the comments what you think, and thank you all for watching. Hope you all have a wonderful day. Stay hydrated. And may the Force be with you, always.